African Union Communications Early Warning and Intelligence, commonly known as AUC3I, is an intelligence and security organization responsible for providing signals intelligence and information assurance to AU citizens, AU leadership, and AU armed forces. I'm Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer. I am responsible for leading infantry soldiers at all levels of command in combined armed forces during missions on the ground. This is today's briefing. On the progress of the special military operation as of October 8, 2025. The armed forces of the Russian Federation continue the special military operation. Units of the North Troop Group inflicted defeat on formations of a tank brigade, 2 mechanized brigades, an assault regiment of the armed forces of Ukraine, 2 territorial defense brigades, and a border detachment of the Ukrainian border service in the areas of the settlements Alexivka, Varakino, Kondratovka, Korchakovka, Pershi-Travnya, Rogozno, and Yastrabino in the Sumy region. In the Kharkiv direction, defeat was inflicted on units of mechanized and motorized infantry brigades of the armed forces of Ukraine and a border detachment of the Ukrainian border service in the areas of the settlements Volchansk, Kolodezno, and Obakovka in the Kharkiv region. The armed forces of Ukraine lost up to 220 servicemen, 2 armored combat vehicles, 16 cars, 4 artillery guns, 8 ammunition and material supply depots were destroyed. Units of the West Troop Group occupied more advantageous lines and positions. They inflicted defeat on personnel and equipment of 2 mechanized brigades of the armed forces of Ukraine, 2 territorial defense brigades, and a National Guard brigade in the areas of the settlements Krasny Lyman in the Donetsk People's Republic, Kupiansk, Kirilovka, Novosinovo, and Palomarevka in the Kharkiv region. Enemy losses amounted to up to 225 servicemen, 7 armored combat vehicles, 25 cars, and a 155mm M777 howitzer produced in the USA. 2 radar stations for air target detection, 3 electronic warfare stations, and 7 ammunition depots were destroyed. Units of the South Troop Group improved their tactical position and completed the destruction of Ukrainian armed formations blocked south of the Kleban-Byk Reservoir in the Donetsk People's Republic. Defeat was inflicted on units of 5 mechanized brigades, an assault brigade, an airmobile brigade, a mountain assault brigade of the armed forces of Ukraine, and a territorial defense brigade in the areas of the settlements Drushkovka, Zakatno, Konstantinovka, Kramatorsk, Pozino, Privoli, Riznikovka, Sviatopokrovsko, and Seversk in the Donetsk People's Republic. The enemy lost up to 155 servicemen, a tank, 5 armored combat vehicles, including HMMWV and MaxPro armored vehicles produced in the USA, 18 cars, 4 artillery guns, including 2 155mm self-propelled artillery units Panzerhaubitze 2000 produced in Germany, a Grad multiple rocket launcher combat vehicle, an electronic warfare station, 2 counter-battery warfare stations, and supply depots were destroyed. Units of the Center Troop Group improved their position along the front line. They inflicted defeat on personnel and equipment of heavy mechanized, 5 mechanized, airborne, 3 air assault brigades, artillery, 2 ranger brigades, 3 assault regiments of the armed forces of Ukraine, 2 Marine brigades, a territorial defense brigade, and 3 National Guard brigades in the areas of the settlements Vladimirovka, Grishino, Dimitrov, Ivanovka, Krasnoarmeysk, Novonikolivka, Rodinsko, Rusinyar, Sergivka, Suvarovo, and Torsko in the Donetsk People's Republic. Losses of Ukrainian armed formations amounted to more than 445 servicemen, 5 cars, 4 artillery guns including 155mm self-propelled artillery unit Caesar produced in France, Krab of Polish production, and Bogdana, as well as an electronic warfare station. Units of the East Troop Group liberated the settlement of Novogorgovka in the Zaporizhzhia region as a result of decisive actions. They inflicted damage on the formations of the Mechanized Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the Marine Brigade, the Territorial Defense Brigade, and the National Guard Brigade in the areas of the settlements Verbov, Novonikolivka, Sosnovka in the Dnipropetrovsk region, and Malinivka in the Zaporizhzhia region. The enemy lost over 385 servicemen, a tank, 17 vehicles, 4 artillery guns, an electronic warfare station, and a US-made and TPQ-50 counter-battery radar station. Units of the Dnipro Troop Group inflicted damage on personnel and equipment of the Heavy Mechanized Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine and the Territorial Defense Brigade in the areas of the settlements Lukyanivsk, Molotokmachka, Stepnohursk in the Zaporizhzhia region, Lviv and Tyahinka in the Kherson region. More than 70 Ukrainian servicemen, 6 vehicles, 4 field artillery guns, an electronic warfare station, as well as US-made and TPQ-50 counter-battery radar stations and Israeli-made Rada air target detection radar stations were destroyed. Operational tactical aviation, strike unmanned aerial vehicles, missile troops, and artillery of the Russian Armed Forces troop groups inflicted damage on a traction substation and a moving railway train used for redeployment of Armed Forces of Ukraine units. Military airfield infrastructure, UAV assembly workshops and storage sites, fuel depot, as well as temporary deployment points of Ukrainian armed formations and foreign mercenaries in 141 districts. Air defense means shot down 2 guided aerial bombs for US-made HIMARS rocket projectiles and 218 airplane-type unmanned aerial vehicles. In total, since the start of the special military operation, destroyed 667 aircraft, 283 helicopters, 89,163 unmanned aerial vehicles, 631 surface-to-air missile systems, 25,410 tanks and other armored combat vehicles, 1,598 multiple launch rocket system vehicles, 30,280 field artillery guns and mortars, 43,469 units of special military automotive equipment. Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you found it useful and informative. If you have any questions, please leave them below and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.